Thank you. Our next speaker is Sakshi Rai. She's a program consultant in the Center for Budget and Government Governance Accountability, and she'll talk about the geopolitics of financial secrecy in Asia.
Thank you. So I will begin by talking about why we wrote this paper. The reason for beginning to grapple with this particular paper was the fact that there were two jurisdictions that essentially came up in news for being instituted in the One Belt, One Road initiative. And that essentially has a lot of security implications in the region, for example. So if you can see the map, does it have a PowerPoint? Can I point it? Okay, doesn't matter. So if you see in the map, Horgoz is one of them. It's also known as Horgoz in Kazakhstan. That is literally bordering the Kazakhstan-China border, and it was conceptualized somewhere around in 1992. So one of the jurisdictions isn't mentioned here, which is Kashgar. But as we started talking about and looking into these jurisdictions, we realized that such sort of trends were mirroring across Asia, and so it was important for us to look into why this is happening and exactly what it means for the region geopolitically as well. So what our analysis essentially does is that it combines financial, legal, and geostrategic features, traits, and structures to understand where secrecy can be birthed, where it can be rebirthed, where can it be practiced and enabled. So you can understand just by the expanse of the region why it's happening in such particular jurisdictions. Okay. Yeah. So as I said, the objectives of the paper is usually to talk about situating tax havens in Asia and mapping these particular trends. One of the main objectives that these jurisdictions have come up in Asia is because of the growing income and wealth inequality. And you can find this sort of evidence in all of the Deloitte reports that have come up in the recent years. This is something that they acknowledge themselves. So there is a growing market, especially in Asia Pacific, for high net worth individuals and ultra high net worth individuals, even over North America, for example. And because of that reason, there is a huge demand of localizing wealth management. Now, in the paper, if you ever go through it, you will find that we've interchangeably used international wealth centers, international financial centers, international financial services centers, and such terms to talk about secrecy, tax haven behavior, low taxation, etc. And the reason for that is essentially because we were able to distinguish between the services that were being offered. Markets emerge in context. So it was necessary for us to understand why this particular market is coming up in this particular jurisdiction where there is absolutely no business activity. For example, Horgoz has no business activity. Same with Kashgar, has basically no local businesses. And in fact, a Reuters journalist, when they were interviewing one of the local businesses, was very skeptical of the fact that why would mainland China invest in such a jurisdiction? And essentially then it led us to understand that, these particular jurisdictions have somewhere been accommodated in the trade treaties that have come up. So these could be pacts that have been signed between sub-regions, could have been between two countries itself, or could be transnational pacts. And therefore these have been designed to come up in a certain way, catering certain markets and providing certain financial services. The other reason that it's important to look into these international financial centers is because they're essentially being established after special economic zones. You can also, again, like it depends on which country you're in Asia, they could be phrased as free trade zones, could be phrased as special financial zones. However, but in order to really understand secrecy especially in the context of developing countries, it's important to look into special economic zones and how they function. The overall narrative of why we should have special economic zones was essentially to bring development, to localize development, to bring businesses and investments locally. However, that is not the objective of these international financial centers because they almost have no social contract to the domiciled citizens of that country. And you will find out why. Sorry, how much time do I have? Okay, I'm going to stick. Right, so this is basic. So, essentially because we are very anti-OECD in our organization itself, so we were like, okay, we don't want to look at what OECD has done. I want to look at what the Offshore Leaks database tells me, right? So, also because it would give us a precise peek into which businesses or which structures have used what kind of jurisdictions in Asia to take these services. So you can see a list of these jurisdictions that came up over and over again, and we were also able to find out what sort of business sectors those were. So you can find out we were able to classify it on the basis of geographical locations, business sectors, what was the preferred structure of tax abuse that we also used in these particular jurisdictions. So we were able to find out that the limited liability companies were the most preferred sort of entities and structures that were used for avoiding taxes or offshoring capital. One of the interesting things that we came across is that we looked at investor perception surveys to understand which is the most preferred jurisdiction to manage my company structure. And so we came across this particular website, which basically tells you which jurisdiction is good for what reason. So you can, I would have liked to open the entire website to you, but and it ranks it as well. So if you want to use Hong Kong for example, if you want to use it for holdings, it would be better if you chose that over some other jurisdiction. And so it gives it has ledgers as to why you should use this particular thing over that. So again, it sort of corroborated as to our suspicions. The second part of the paper is basically to understand how are you burdening a country within one. And why I say that is because in order to establish an international financial center, you need to have a special economic zone law. You need to have a law which you can abuse so that you can create a jurisdiction, somewhat like this area, and just say this is a different jurisdiction than everyone else because this will have its own international court, will have its own international arbitration entity, will have the English common law, which is something again we discovered was common across most jurisdictions. So the preferred choice of legal system again, and we looked into why was English common law so popular because most of these countries were not following English common law in their actual legal system. So why would they choose it for the international financial system? It just boggled our minds. And so for that reason, because it's familiar to all businesses, essentially to get access to City of London, it's better protection to investors, and it follows a system where whatever precedent has been set by a certain case becomes the law. So they follow the doctrine of precedence. I'm an economist, I can't explain it more than that. So I will refer to my co-author for that reason. Yeah, and it also provides an entry to the euro market. Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. So I'm gonna this is a quick case study that I want you to look into. This is the Astana International Financial Center, which was established in 2015 after the Dubai International Financial Center, which is ranked really high in the Financial Secrecy Index. I'm sure you would know. So it again has the English common law, and it's filled with English judges. And it's called an independent court, but I don't know how independent that is. And again, the funniest thing that we found is that the Astana International Financial Center's official language is English. Kazakhstan speaks Kazakh and Russian. They do not speak English as their official language. It was the funniest thing I thought. So that was to happen. And again, like it specializes in UK security, for example, if there is a case of an intangible asset, they would refer to the English commercial law, if I'm not wrong. And they would look into the law, and even if they are unable to follow it through, they would then apply the English and Wales law that is applicable to the intangibles area, right? Yeah. So again, so it is strange that these jurisdictions are taking up so much from the City of London. The other interesting fun fact is that the Astana International Financial Centre was actually birthed in London because all of their meetings happen in London. If you trace it, which we did, happened only in London. All the chancellors of the UK came in to inaugurate such a financial centre with the objective of complementing the One Belt One Road initiative to basically complement the investments made in that market. I also want to point out that because this is an independent entity, it is not going to be a signatory to the Common Reporting Standard. It may not even follow the right to information laws that your countries may have. It may not follow the Freedom of Information Act or however your country frames it. A lot of the laws that you may have faced in your country to get, this particular jurisdiction may not follow it. So it's important to look into these particular loopholes and address the issue. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so as I said, some of the implications for this particular trend is that it's going to have an implication on taxing rights. I want to make it clear that developing countries are not homogeneous. We bully each other too. So it is going to have an impact on low-income countries, less developed countries, and it's going to also have an impact in for example, India came up with an international financial center. It's going to also have an impact on people living in India, having no idea that their taxes are being used to create such jurisdictions. So, as I said, it's important to look into trade agreements. It's important to look into the geopolitical trade pacts that the countries are signing, because they allocate taxing rights, they allocate how your country eventually is going to function and how secrecy is going to basically determine the security of your region. So thank you everyone.